Weston was always in a race, even on the day we were born.
I misran them.
Yeah. He was racing to get out of my mom's belly and ended up beating my sister by 34 minutes. I have always been a competitive person, but never with him. He and I like different things, and even though we are twins, my sister, we were two totally different people.
Weston was the guy who could talk to anybody that he walked up to and carry on conversations with everyone. I have Weston to thank for helping me come out of my shell. Some people say that homeschoolers tend to be socially awkward, but my brothers and I were never your regular homeschoolers, especially not Weston. He was the cool kid. When we were going to school at Timothy Ministry, everyone there was friends with Weston, and those who weren't probably wanted to be. I was proud to be his twin sister, and one of my proudest moments was when he gave his salutatorian speech at our high school graduation. In front of the entire crowd, he announced, "Many of you know my sister Tennyson. We're twins, and being twins, we shared a lot of things over the years, such as a car, teachers, homework, and our grade point average." This statement surprised me. I was always so happy whenever he included me in his life. He, of course, had to keep the T-Talk Camaro that we shared during our high school years. I didn't mind. That car was the start of one of his greatest passions in life. He always wanted me to join him whenever he went to car events or to hang out with his buddies at the Starbucks on Barrett. Whenever he introduced me to his friends, they always seemed to know a little something about me. Being so different from my twin, I always thought it was strange that he liked to show me off or talk about me with his friends. But I guess I should understand, because I like to talk about him too and show him off to all of my friends. Maybe it's a twin thing. There are many cool things about Weston. He was a builder. When we were younger, before he started working on cars, he would build forts and ramps, and he even built a life-size trebuchet. You might see it in the pictures on the screen sometime. His ramps were really makeshift. He built them out of scrap wood that we collected from who knows where. Weston didn't use the ramps he built as much as I did. I think he enjoyed making them more than jumping off of them. I was the opposite. I took my little trick bike off those ramps all day long, every day, until the ramps broke. One indeed actually did break. I wanted to get as much air as I could. Weston, on the other hand, was more interested in four-wheeled vehicles, while I preferred two wheels. A couple of my favorite adventures with my brother were ones where it was just the two of us. A few years ago, my grandparents took my mom and Weston and I skiing in Colorado for my granddad's birthday. On the second and third day of the trip, Weston and I ventured to the other side of Copper Mountain. We had gotten tired of the green and blue slopes really quickly, and we wanted to check out the black slopes. Of course, we brought a camera, and we're decked out in our crazy ski hats. His was blue. No, mine was blue, of course. His was red. We rode down those slopes as many times as we could and found all of the hidden jumps. I filmed him doing his fake wipeouts, and he filmed me getting as much air as I could. One day, Weston, being Weston, wore his Jack Sparrow wig down the slopes. And all throughout town. I think most people thought the 18-inch dreadlocks that he was wearing were actually real because nobody gave him funny looks. Sometimes I wish that I were at least half as cool as my twin. I'm glad that I inherited all of his holy genes. I finally feel like I'm somewhat stylish now thanks to Weston. And yes, his jeans actually fit me. He always knew that I needed help in that area. I never liked shopping, and I still don't. Weston, on the other hand, loved to shop. His spring break before we graduated high school, my grandparents took Weston and I on a 10-day trip to England. We stayed in London most of our trip. Several nights, Weston insisted on going shopping on Oxford Street, so after we said goodnight to my grandparents, we hopped onto the Underground and headed out for a late-night shopping adventure. Finally, my last memory with my twin brother occurred the week before he died. I was over at his house, and he was going to show me how to clay bar my Mustang. I expected him to show me how to do it, and then to let me do the waxing myself. But after Weston got started, he didn't stop. I offered multiple times to help him and to do it myself, but he insisted on doing it, so I just sat and talked with him while he clay barred my entire car. Weston was always very generous, as I'm sure many of you know. If you asked him to do something, he would normally do it, especially if it were car-related. All that I hope for Weston now is that he has the same joy that he had while he was here, and even more where he is now. I hope that all of your dreams come true, brother. I love you. Have fun in paradise.
Thanks everybody for being here today. It means a lot to my family and to Weston, because I know he can see us right now. I know that everybody here was a part of his life, and he meant a lot to you. And I haven't had any experience speaking in front of a lot of people, so this is kind of hard for me. Please bear with me. I wanted to take a moment to remember my brother and tell you all about some of the times we had when we were kids. I'm sure everyone remembers his big smile, his booming voice, and his deep blue eyes. All of you know how he had every hairstyle from a mohawk to Zac Efron. He wore his aviators better than Tom Cruise in Top Gun. My brother hugged like a big old black mama. He had a presence about him that brought people together, as you can see here today. He didn't change who he was to fit in, and people loved him for him. It's been really hard for me these past few weeks, as I'm sure it has been for everybody. He had so much life in him, and he was so young. My brother was supposed to be the crazy, awesome uncle to my daughters as they grew up. My little Rachel loved Weston, and he was so good with kids. When he stayed in my basement, Rachel would wake up in the morning and she would beeline for the basement steps. If you ever stopped her, she would tell you she's going to see Wetton. That's what she called him. When she would get downstairs, he would ask her, "Who's your favorite person?" followed by Uncle Weston, in a whisper. Weston would brag that when she got older, she was going to be the coolest girl ever because he was going to teach her how to drift and how to drive a stick. Last summer, my brother and I bought an old 94 F-150. It was a manual and I had never been taught how to drive a stick. After using it for about 2 weeks, my brother ripped it off into the Hillside Methodist parking lot after work. He parked her, turned it off, took the keys out and said, "You ready?" I drove it around the parking lot for about 10 minutes before we took the thing down Rose Creek Drive. We made it through the intersection, thank goodness. And she was going good in third gear, about 35 miles an hour, and my brother told me to shift her into fourth. As I was shifting her into fourth, the whole stick comes clear out of the floor. That's not a good thing. My brother and I kind of looked at each other, we did a double take. And since I only had about 15 minutes of experience now, I pulled my foot off the clutch and the truck just jerked. It lurched forward. Momentarily, my brother yelled at me to push the clutch back in. We coasted to the side of the road. We sat there for a second. We were just trying to think what the heck was going on. I'll never forget how he taught me to drive a stick. Everyone knows my brother was into cars. More or less, it was his life. He loved burning out anytime, anywhere. Even at 17, he would burn out the tires of my mom's front-wheel drive Lincoln Continental. One of my favorite memories of us kids is back when we were 8 and 9, even 10 and 11. We had more Hot Wheels than on a Walmart shelf. When Saturday rolled around and we finished our chores, my parents would give us each $5. That $5 we spent almost every week on 5 new Hot Wheels. It was our thing. We would take them one at a time and roll them down good old Sherry's Hill, and they would fly, crashing and tumbling as they raced down. This was one of his first introductions to racing cars. Even before this, though, was the van excursion at my grandparents' house in Memphis, Tennessee. They had a long turnaround drive, which went up a steep slope right in front of the house. This is where my dad would park the van so everyone could get in. It just so happened to be a cold winter afternoon, and my dad decided to crank the van up to take the edge off the chill. My brother, sister, and I patiently sat in the back seats of the van while we waited as everyone came out. Whether I dared him to or whether he just wanted to, what happened next we'll never know. Don't ask me how he already knew how to operate a vehicle, but he was faster than a NASCAR driver. He jumped in the leather driver's seat, released the e-brake, and threw the shifter in neutral. Please remember, we were so young we couldn't see over the dash. Everyone was walking out the front door as the van started rolling backwards down the drive. My dad ran around the front of the van and tried to jump in the driver's seat. And my mom ran around the back, and she was pushing the 2.5-ton beast to stop it from continuing its crash course. The van ran down the drive, mowed over my grandmother's 7-foot-tall, 15-year-old azaleas, and crashed into the brick house. We both got a yelling at that afternoon. He said I told him to do it. I said I had nothing to do with it. Looking back now, I venture to say he probably wanted to. It was his first joyride. I just wanted to tell a few stories today with his kids to share with everyone how fun it was growing up with him as my little brother. He was my best friend, and we were also sparring partners from time to time. Almost every memory I have as a kid, my brother shares with me. It's so hard to think that my kids will never get to play with his kids and share some of his same memories. He wanted a family, and he would have been an awesome dad.